You know, it's kind of just the cooning level. Of Cooning. It's too much.
Good evening, everyone, or you could say good morning, or good late night, however you may choose to be. But tonight, myself and the illustrious Doctor Short is here. How you
Mm.
doing, Doctor Short?
Oh man, I'm okay. I'm okay. You?
I'm feeling rather white, as you would say.
Hmm. Well, everybody should feel white, and reparations would go with me feeling very white. I need my MFM. We all need it. You need it. Shoot. In fact, you know what? We need like a vacation, Labor Day. Hell, that's for white people. What day do the slaves get? And Juneteenth, not enough. That's celebrating being free. They need
No,
to make that like a 10-day weekend.
Juneteenth is going to be. That's mixed in June, so you know what they call that. They're going to be calling it Pride Teenth in a couple years. So
Or slip and slide teams. Mm, mm,
yeah,
mm.
yeah. So interesting news this week. A lot of interesting stories, Doctor Short.
Yes, sir. Well, things are happening. I don't know. There's so many places that we could go. So many things. I mean, you got naked pork chop feminists shooting at people in traffic. They couldn't shoot at a kill a cop that hurt someone, but shoot a stranger. Oh my God. My. Oh
Yeah.
my. And then, this is Blunder Biden and all the lies he's told. Uh, it's caught up with him. I mean, word that Michael or Michelle Obama, I believe she's a woman, but I wouldn't want to be turned over by her, even if she is a woman. It's just general safety purposes. I mean, I have to have a razor blade in my ass. I wouldn't be in the same bed without being certain. The song they sing in church, be very sure that situation. I hope so. I think so. I, they're talking about running a double ticket with Kamala Harris and Michelle Obama.
You know
I
what
mean,
that is, Doctor
well,
Doctor
basically,
Doctor
those
Short.
would be
That
man.
that is somebody in that damn Democratic Party who think that's going to sell it on black people.
Well, I mean, they've got two of the best black men that have ever held office. But it's just, I just don't believe it. You know, and I mean, even the stupid news. Did you see Beyonce's mother's getting divorced at her age? You better keep what the hell you got. I mean, if anything, you need to manacle yourself to a man at her age. And I just noticed, and I think I mentioned this to you, that you're my generation. Remember Star Trek? It blew my mind that that Beyonce's mother looks like Kor, the head Klingon from Star Trek, or Baltar from Battlestar Galactica. If you gave her a mustache, man, you would think it's a reunion and such. And had she not gotten all the facelifts, she would look just like John Coraco's. It blew my mind. I saw a picture and said, God, it looks like Battlestar. It looks like the dude from Battlestar Galactica that's always stabbing people in the back. Well, maybe they have something in common. They're about the same age. Um,
She, you know, she's a very interesting person. I think that she, thinks that
so
she's
her face has
desirable.
more plaster than Paris. I'm like, how much stuff you gonna put up there, baby? I mean, it's sort of like you see these women dying over butt lifts and bust lifts, and y- you know, you can like have your breast and everything be done, but you're still old. And the thing is this do the kung fu grip work down in your groin area. That's the real thing you need to keep young. But anyway, we're not gonna go there.
So
Uh,
let's talk about
oh, and that was the thing
Bronny
I was gonna
James.
tell you. But before we go to James, I just want to mention to you which day-to-day invention can be credited to Kamala Harris inspiring people at 3M.
Anybody in the chat know the answer to this
No,
question?
okay, Velcro. And it was just, there's so much that she's done. So, maybe she can't string a sentence together, but she's done a lot of things. In fact, they're just saying, I'm certain that when she gets out of office and she can just get stuff branded, she'll probably have her own brand of chapstick because she knows how to keep her lips moist. Um, and and I don't know, and maybe she can get her chin tucked. Oh, look at this! Oh my God, I just got attacked by selfish. Right?
Somebody said it's buffering. Yeah,
Oh, it is.
work with me a little bit. We get these storms, these real storms where I live at. Lately, the last couple
Hmm.
days, these
Hmm.
storms been bad. So
Oh yeah, it's storming
at
here. This is why the cat's in here traumatized. I'm glad. I'm
least you can
glad. I just.
find mine, Doctor Short. I saw my cat around 2:30. I don't know where he's at now. I haven't seen
Yeah,
him since 2:30 this afternoon.
yeah, well, this thing has been acting incredibly stupid the last few days of thunderstorm. So they just stormed up. I thought it ran up on me. I thought it was like a big rat attacking me. And I was about to say, I don't live in the hood. This neighbor's gentrified. But anyway, now you were going to ask me about who was it? LeBron
Maybe,
James' son?
yeah, Bronny James. So,
Well,
Doctor Short, apparently he had a cardiac arrest.
hmm
There's been a lot of speculation of why
well,
these young.
everybody's having those these days of all ages. Um, you know, that in fact, the gentleman that's the chef for Obama may have had a heart attack. You know, I will challenge anybody. There's a very good website that they don't like for people to go to, but I beg you to go to it. It's called globalresearch.ca for Canada. Global research, one word. If you can't spell, just put in Google, lazy people. It will spell it right for you. It's your fault that you didn't learn to spell in school. Public school is free. You can get an STD and get shot, but you can also learn how to spell and read if you want to, even in public school. Globalresearch.ca. And just look at what they're saying about health issues around the world and what's been the basic change in the last 2 3 years. So and if you're trifling and you need people to say all kinds of stuff to get their platform shut down, well, you're in the wrong place. We're going to be slick and get around the damn censors and algorithms. So if you're dense and you can't get what I just said, that's your problem.
Let me
Okay.
ask you, Doctor Short. I noticed that a lot of platforms. people will talk about it. People will. It's like the elephant in the room, and no, and it's like
You
if
mean
you
it's the
did,
racist gunman at the work site?
if you, it's like if you did, if you had to get whatever you got for your job or whatever. I truly understand. My particular job, they didn't force me or anybody that in my field that we had to do it. And I understand some people got put in situations where they had to do that or not be able to provide for their families. However, now since a lot of stuff is coming out, Dr. Short, it seems like nobody wants to talk about it.
Well, it isn't that nobody wants to talk about it. Let's just do this so we can move on. Some of the biggest, most important companies in the world, corporations, are pharmaceuticals. Pharmaceuticals underwrite the media, they underwrite the films, they underwrite radio, they underwrite print media. They're the biggest advertisers. So it's not in anybody's interest to estrange themselves from the people who sign their checks, who butter their bread. So you can't expect people who are pushing this stuff around to tell on themselves and anyone who they're paying to cut off their check any more than black government workers are some of the most passive reactionary sellouts you ever want to meet. Same principle applies.
Mm, mm, okay.
So, and by the way, Obama's chef, you know, uh,
They said he was coming out with a documentary.
or a book or something. Well, a documentary book.
They said he drowned in 8 feet of water and he could swim.
Well, let's just say this. Some people died in worse ways, like Donald Young, the minister of music at Trinity Church, who's allegedly connected to, who. And he's shot in the head, as were two other black men that were gay that attended Trinity United Church of Christ, which was also attended by somebody that most people listening voted for. You suckers, y'all voted for that BS. I mean, and let's just be honest. You remember the Adams family? Sure you do. You know, Lurch looks just like somebody that used to live on Pennsylvania Avenue. Lurch looks just like him, except Lurch's hair is more straight. And Lurch is more lovable because he's a monster for real and he's just keeping it real. Who tried to come across as if he was a messiah. And we didn't get anything but bullshit. Abortion, illegals, wars, gentrification, rainbow, trans.
Bad
It's
food.
the biggest scam of all times. I mean, no bailouts, bail out the banks. We lost all the trillions of dollars. So, and now this black man leaves two children behind. And if the man were a dumpy, old, bad looking person, it wouldn't be so intriguing. But knowing how Obama, every time there's something Skittles or rainbow or same sex oriented, he's in the middle of it. I'm just saying for a man that wants to be taken as being hetero, he's always pushing gay stuff, The company you keep, Barack, company you keep. And the real fools, the real chumps and suckers are the black people that still believe. And more bodies going to turn up. So let me see. That's three black men dead in Chicago, all three gay. A black gay man in DC dead, somehow connected to you know who. And now you got this cook. That's five dead black men. Eventually, somebody's got to draw a conclusion. But nah, black folks don't like the truth. So they're going to pretend that just is. And you got to ask yourself, you know, why did Michelle not like Barack? She's telling everybody she didn't like him and she wanted to leave him. What would make a woman that loved a man stop loving him and want to leave? If he's working and he's not kicking her behind, I mean, there are a lot of reasons, but something that would really help me want to leave is if I went to a church full of dudes oodling at my husband and he's missing for weeks at a time, staying up in Springfield and not coming home. That could make me awful suspicious as a woman as to what the hell he's doing. And it's no secret that Obama and Rahm Emanuel and many other people were on the roster of the gay bathhouse called A Man's Country that's located, was in the Boys Town section of Chicago, that curiously was knocked down about the same time that Barack Obama left the White House in January 2017. I don't know why, but it happened. And I can tell you that that bathhouse that was for sodomite men literally had a room dedicated to one of their most famous clients, ex-clients. And it was called the Oral Office. Okay, hate me. I didn't do anything. All I do is read. I read. I'm trying to understand what's going on. And I always say to people, same thing I've been saying since 2017, actually before, is that the neon sign that was outside on the front part of A Man's Country gay bathhouse looks a lot like the Change and Hope Obama symbol, campaign symbol. Similar colors, blue and rose versus blue and red,
Mm.
and a circle like a O, except with the thing sticking out of it. And yeah, a pink thing sticking out of it. And then the Obama thing, you had like red American flag type stripes hanging off the bottom of a blue circle. For this, it was a blue circle with some red coming off of it. But red was at the top and blue at the bottom. Go figure. So it's almost as if the campaign symbol,
Hope we can.
it's as if the campaign symbol for Obama was based on the neon sign where he was alleged to have entertained himself. Rahm Emanuel went there too, and it's alleged Jesse Jr. was there too. That's a whole different conversation. It's alleged, alleged, alleged. I'm just saying. No. So yeah, Obama. They're beginning to look at him, and there are all kinds of strange things about the story. Stuff that's gonna come out, and I
Mm.
guess they have to like do something to. I guess maybe I'll tell you something. If Michelle were to divorce Obama for not treating her right, they'd have so many angry, all these toxic feminists. So many women would want to be there for Michelle. She could probably do like a Tina Turner run for the White House because I've been hurt. I should get to be president and ruin the world.
Oh, same thing they did to Hillary. Promise of the White House.
Hmm. Well, and so anyway, that's all. And I just want to say to you that in terms of health, you see athletes and people dropping all the time. No one asking anything. And there are promises of yet another shutdown. And how does someone know? How does someone like Biden, who doesn't even know where he is, and I don't know if you saw that clip where he's talking about defecating in his pants. I poop my pants. I poop my pants.
Yeah, I
And
saw it.
I just said, okay, okay, all right. And I can count on the black Democrats to ignore that. To, now, yes, I'm versus a Republican, and no, I don't worship one party or the other. I saw Mitch McConnell have a brain freeze bigger than 7-Eleven. And I mean, it just did. And it's obvious that there's something wrong with him. It was bad enough that he looks like a trans version of Granny from the Beverly Hillbillies. But now that your cognition is off, I mean, where you sign off before the radio program broadcast day is over, you need to be doing something else, like think about how you can get some free dent and a rocking chair and just sit your ass somewhere. Just
He
saying.
did it. He's done his job. Mitch McConnell's job was to fill that Supreme Court.
And his job was also to mess up black people. I mean, not that he needed help, but he got that done. And it's not just him there. All of these old people. I mean, we almost need Soylent Green to be a reality for some of these boomers and silent generation people. Some come scoop their asses up so we can move the hell on. But just saying, Soylent Green. I know you've seen the movie. Um, and the other piece is Feinstein or Frankenstein. In fact, he may look better than her at the age she is. She's like 90 years old and she doesn't even know where she is. People telling her to vote. Can you imagine that you have a government full of people who belong in assisted living somewhere? In fact, they're probably afraid to retire because they'll end up in Florida and then the Satan will get them. Now,
Wasn't it this week I asked you about where's everybody's auntie Maxine at?
yeah, well, where is she? Where is she? Where is Maxine Waters?
Everybody's favorite auntie.
Well, and basically in every wrinkle cream manufacturer's nightmare. You know, they could never do a before and after with her because they lose all their money, man. The campaign was a failure. Why did you pick Maxine? Nothing will work on her. I mean, where is she?
We ain't
And
seen her. You would have thought she retired like Pelosi, but she hasn't retired. She's still around, but nobody's seen her.
well, Pelosi hasn't retired yet. And did you see Pelosi out there lying about? She's acting like she didn't hear the questions about her husband doing some illegal sort of trading. She knows. She knows. And she even
So
looks like a trans Christopher Reeves off Superman.
I see we got the B1 family in the house tonight.
Almost
It's a
shout
good
out to
thing.
all of y'all. And, I'm looking, you've got Hunter Biden up on here. Now he's a cokehead
You mean
of
Blunder Biden?
yeah, Blunder Biden. He Their pictures, I've seen them. It looks like he's messing with kids. To me, perception is reality, baby. It sure look like, he's trying to be Woody Woodpecker with minors. It does. And look, I live here in DC. Y'all know goodness well. You can't just get no drugs up in the White House. They search you. They have dogs and all this other kind of stuff. That was someone that did not go through security that got all that dope in the White House. Y'all hear me? That was someone that they didn't check. And they found drugs 3 times. Who got by all the security 3 times, other than someone that lives there that came in through the garage?
And what
They
it
do
might
have,
be, Dr. Short, what it might be 10 or 15 people at best that don't get searched when they come through?
yeah, but of those 10, 15 people, who in there in recent memory has had a visible cocaine addiction that's internationally known? People know the dude's a druggie. His father said it during the debate. And so we
People
can't possibly consider
people know more about him than El Chapo.
how does he not qualify as the first person you'd look at. And see, all they'd have to do is check his piss. Does he use drugs? I want to know. How can I tell if he's tooting old? Is it in his hurt? Oh, no, not the way, right? His warm embrace. Oh no, what I say. If you wanna know if he uses dope, it's in his piss. That's where it is. Oh yes, it's in his piss. That's where it is. They need to check his piss, y'all. Give him a piss test like everybody else here in DC. In fact, his stuff would probably blow up the cup and shit. They'd have to have hazmat. Oh, we didn't know. We're sorry. Well, fill in the insurance form. We'll get something for you. I mean, that dude probably has piss that would eat up a styrofoam or paper cup. He's done everything. He's a known junkie. So why would a person that hasn't completely beaten his drug habit, who's facing charges from the government right now for buying a weapon when he's still using drugs, and he can't be considered? And you know the Secret Service, which is under the Justice Department, you know damn well when they suspended the investigation, who's going to find the seated president's son guilty of drugs when he's president? What will that do to you for the rest of your life?
Hmm.
Look, the Bidens are dirty. The Bidens are crooks. The Bidens have gotten bribes. And on one hand, Biden has put millions of Black American men behind bars for crack. He's fighting the whole country to make certain that his crackhead son doesn't go to jail or get into any trouble at all. And it bees like that.
Dr. Short, I don't think people really get how this man has been a part of every drug bill in the last 40 years.
You mean last 50 years?
Like he literally has to sign the bill.
Yes, he created the bill when he knew his kids got high. He's got another junkie, a daughter that's a junkie. And I wonder why Joe Biden Jr. died so early. What made that dude have all sorts of brain problems? If I knew my family was jacked up like that, and my father snorting on little kids like they're rubbed in cocaine,
Now, you guys in the chat, just we should think about that as a family, right? We know at least one person, just one, and that's being really, really nice, that has lost their life to drugs, back and forth to jail,
mm-hmm.
whether they're your family member or a neighbor. You know at least one person in the last 40, 50 years. And this man was single handedly behind it all.
Mm-hmm.
For all our beautiful sisters who say they can't find good men, there's a shortage on good men out here.
He messed them up for you.
He's the main reason.
And,
Guys
and,
got records,
and, he,
can't
and,
get
he,
jobs.
and he allegedly swings both ways with black dudes. So he's a mess. He's a complete freak. And it's so amazing that he knows without debating, with his depends full of crap, he's going to get 90% of the black female vote as they systematically strip black women of government jobs across the country, though he's got some high placed strange ones up in there. Uh, Sisters just love Biden. I'm telling you, I love the passport brother movement. People who are this irrational should be punished. They don't need a man. They don't need a black family when they're that retarded. I'm not asking you to vote for Trump, but at least if you're voting for a racist, be honest. He looks like a albino Woodstock from Peanuts. Remember Woodstock? And Snoopy's friend that never quite got it together. They're like the really ugly bird that you never quite figure out why he's in the cartoons. It's Biden.
Mm.
And, I was just thinking, this man's got us close to a nuclear war. That they're bombing Russia. I mean, the Russians are showing so much restraint. They could push a button and there just wouldn't be any more life on this planet. We haven't had to live with this degree of anxiety about getting blown up for years until this spaz and his very interesting wife. We just need to remember that Jill Biden was married. And when she was married, she was also having an affair with Joe Biden at the same time. When her husband was a big fundraiser and supporter for Joe Biden. And when he found out, their thing went Splitsville. And so, Jill Biden,
The
she's got
librarian.
him. Yeah, notice. Yeah, library. Yeah, librarian. She lies and she lies down. Very good. I mean, and she's not the first librarian. Remember, there's another wild person. W. Bush's wife was a librarian,
Hmm.
and she act like W didn't have eyes for Condoleezza Rice. I'm not saying he did anything, because she does kind of look like a black Chucky. But you know, with all the brain cells he lost when he was using stuff, he probably doesn't look at beauty the same way as you and I. So maybe messing with a horror feature star might be a turn on. It's sort of like transhumanism and how people want to be dogs, and maybe somebody wants to go with someone that looks like Chucky had a black sister. She does look like Chucky. Remember Chucky?
Friend
She
to
looks
the
like
end.
she looks like Chucky, and Chucky was really something. And the news, things are getting so bad. The situation in Israel is bad. Netanyahu, they're after him, and they're trying to change stuff to give him more power. He hates Biden. When have you heard of an American president that had the nuts to stand up and blow Israel off? I don't even think Biden knows what he's doing.
Hmm.
But at the same time, in Ukraine, all that resources going there. And as I think I mentioned to you, brother, that those weapons would end up going to Ukraine, will end up in Africa. And we're looking at what happened in Ukraine, where there's been a coup against the president. These young officers who are AFRICOM trained. AFRICOM stands for African Command, I'm sorry. And that doesn't look too cool. And aside that, of just on the 28th, the president of Guinea just said that all Americans have to be out of his country within 72 hours.
Mm.
So I'm thinking by Monday, all the American personnel have to get out of Guinea. And this coup, going back to Niger, Niger is in the heart of the Sahel. It's surrounding a thoroughly Islamic area. There are all kinds of weapons and smuggling and stuff going on throughout the Sahel, and it has been throughout history, but it's really intensified in the last 10 years since President Ofaga decided, under advice of some white guys, to make Africa the future battleground of humanity, in particular in the Sahel, a strip of semi arid land that stretches from Cap Verde in Senegal all the way to Port Said in Sudan on the Red Sea. And so
Mm.
it's a way in which it's a landmass that you could just walk on. It's not quite desert, it's semi desert. People be able to go from Sudan to Senegal without any real resistance. And imagine what would happen if you began to have a counterinsurgency against 1,100 American troops. How many hundreds, if not thousands, of African guys could hem these people in and then go after the kill to either capture or chase Americans that are out there? And of course, in time, capture and make hostages of them. Think on that. And there have been some tight situations. If you recall, the Trump administration, someone was killed, and Trump did not say a whole lot to the family. And he was not permitted to ride in a carriage or to sign the book.
Wow. So we gave Taiwan $345 million, but I can't get my MF money.
Because Taiwan, the issue is not money, the issue is power. Taiwan is a check on some level against the People's Republic of China and the Chinese Communist Party. In addition, Taiwan It's close to China, and you can actually get people who'd be down for a fight. So if they don't want Americans to go over there and fight, they can get the Thais to fight. And they've been building up the Thais since 1948. Since the collapse of the Chinese nationalist government. And that's increasingly been the case. But the thing I'm really interested in fact, I'm going back to Africa. All these African countries that are now looking to work with the BRICS nations, they may dump the dollar. You may see a run on the US dollar where inflation that we have now will look like happy days. And this is why we have this silly leadership that's fighting for sexuality when people aren't certain how they're going to eat, how they're going to live anywhere, what's going to happen with them. This isn't really that important. And it goes on and on.
Mm. Wow. So what you guys think in the chat, family? What you think about what Dr. Short's talking about? Let us know, because we can't continue to just be talking about this stuff and not uh, creating some type of action behind it and just sitting watching everything that's going on. Looks like your buddy Ron DeSantis done really destroyed his campaign finally, Dr. Short.
You mean de Satan? In fact, if he just had a little teeny tiny mustache, he and Hitler could be like Jerry Lewis and Dean Martin. I mean, he's just really a wicked man, a hateful man. He is pandered to the lowest, most vile element within the white supremacist lager. And we know that the Satan has this Black History panel, and they have basically a male pattern balding Uncle Ruckus looking dude. His last name is Allen, and he was defending this whole idea that slaves got great skills during slavery as if they brought people from Africa here that didn't know how to do anything. Even picking cotton takes some intelligence. Rolling tobacco and curing it takes intelligence. Picking rice, doing agricultural work isn't for dumb people. It's hard, backbreaking, often very exacting, repetitious labor in bad conditions, heat, rain, so forth. You can't do that with a moron. And you can't do it with non industrious people. And you can't get people who are not into mass agricultural production to be able to make a trip in chains, those that were brought here in chains, and suddenly transform a backwards, tree strewn place into an industrial power. That doesn't happen unless people have real skill.
You think it is a possibility that they just had a because I saw the Florida curriculum. I thought it was quite interesting. You know, Dr. Short, me and you talked about my background in education, and I didn't the school I went to there was no such thing as Black history, or you didn't learn any of that stuff. You just learned the basic
Sounds like most schools.
yeah, you learned the basic stuff. So I don't know. And then I wound up transferring, going to predominantly Black area where, I did get some Black history, and and basically got turned on to, our learned scholars from the past. But I think that a lot of times with politicians, messaging, their overall messaging be wrong. I think the word they used by saying that any slave gained skills from slavery was kind of crazy. And I see that Tim Scott, who's a very interesting man, he finally he stuck up for it. He stuck up for what we would say a black cause. Hold on. Oh, we got a good question here, Dr. Short.
Drop it.
The brother said, too many black Americans moving right, gotta stop the tide. DeSantis running interference for the Democrats, in my opinion.
Who?
The brother said, too many black Americans moving right, gotta stop the tide. DeSantis running interference for the Democrats, in my opinion. I think
Well,
it.
he probably is running, but understand that DeSantis, he has no real base. He wouldn't have won. A couple of things helped him in Florida. One, Trump helped him in Florida. The other thing, when he won the first time, and then the first time he ran, he got about 20% of the black female vote, because a lot of black women were mad because there was a picture circulating of that mayor of Tampa, Gillum, and Gillum looked like a white man was reaching in the crack of his ass in front of the Statue of Liberty, and him smiling, and the
Mhm.
white dude looking down at his groin, like white dude is like a cat about to eat a fish.
Yeah.
And if you saw that picture, I mean, it looks like, dude, can't you see this guy really would like you to bed him, and you seem all happy by it, and your pants are tight. And of course, Gillum is with his twin brother who's gay. So if you look at that, a lot of sisters says, "Oh hell no." It's interesting. They were willing, maybe because he's dark skinned, they were willing to concede that maybe he could swing both ways, because they haven't used that analysis for Obama, and it shows colorism. When you're dark skinned, you could be guilty of anything. When you're light skinned, I don't want to see Obama doing all these cues, making people wonder where is he. It's the same way Prince would do all kinds of stuff, and no one would say, well, God, this kind of pants are kind of tight, Prince, and you have your belly showing like Beyonce and Destiny's Child. Oh, he's light skinned. Well, he's cute. Well, we forgive him. If a dude ran around with his belly hanging out, people would wonder, hey, I'm wearing tight pants and all this kind of stuff and have really long hair, and say, baby, right? Folk would wonder.
Yeah.
Wouldn't they? And I've got like a shirt that looks like almost like a brassiere, and I'm just saying you're wearing pink and purple and all that. I mean, right? If he were dark skinned, they would just swear he was so. But Prince is light skinned, so he wouldn't do that. Oh, we're sick as a community. We do not. Colorism is so ugly. I hate it. It makes me sick. So Andrew Gillum being suspect cost him 20%, a full quintile of the black female vote in Florida, and that's what gave DeSantis his victory.
Mm.
He got in, yep, Trump and black women. He didn't have a prayer without it. Nobody knew him.
And
And the
now
second
his
time
phone, he
he
was
did,
just.
yeah, and the second time he ran, you had the white dude that they took out of formaldehyde and sound. In fact, his name sounds like something bad that happens to you. You know how you get a cyst? His name is Chris. And you want assist? Nope, I don't want assist. They didn't vote for Chris. He was boring. He was not, and Andrew Gillum, as I told Ron Hurd and Judge Joe Brown back in March 2020, I saw Andrew Gillum on CNN, called my friends and said, this dude's going to be in a scandal with the white porn star, gay white male porn star, in about 2 weeks. That's just how you know. It's just when it happens, I told your ass first, okay? Don't mess with me. I'm telling you this. I'm sorry. He's screaming like he needs to get some booty juice, okay? And didn't he get busted? He got busted in March
Mm.
2020, being with that porn star. And they had like Dookie in the sheets and all this stuff, and he's drunk and that kind of. And Gillum thought he could come back as bisexual. Nope, never happened. Never, ever happened. But Josh should have been worried about Gillum when you saw John Lewis and Obama and all these people pushing this rainbow agenda, did everything. to help him. And I began to get worried when I saw pictures of Gillum in 2018. And he's at all these gay fundraisers with tight clothes on. He didn't take his wife with him. And he doesn't have his jacket on so people can see the contour of how he's built. You're advertising to people that like that. You're trying to send a message that I'm one of you. That's what I got out of it. And I told people, I'm sorry. There's something to that. If you're a heterosexual man with a wife that you love, of course you need people to vote for you of all types. That includes people gay. You take your wife with you. You didn't take your wife so people wouldn't feel less excited about your candidacy because they could have access. It's the same way certain stars don't bring their women around because they don't want to lose their female fans who fantasize about being with them.
Mm-hmm.
So Gillum deliberately didn't bring his wife around as to not discourage these white dudes. Maybe you could get some of this. Maybe I'll be a little generous and do some reverse reparations for you. And I says that's interesting because white men running for office take their wives everywhere, no matter how much they beat the shit out of her, no matter how much they cheat on her, no matter how much they cheat on her with men, women, dogs, cats, or kids. They drag their wives around with them like a cat with a mouse that
It
they're
looks
about
good.
to
It looks
eat.
good for the
It
campaign.
looks good for the campaign. Why do black men like Obama? No, they leave their wife somewhere else, and that's a metrosexual ploy to say, she's not really with me like that. Well, we're married, but I've noticed that you'll see a lot of people, black, running, male and female, when you don't see them with a husband or a wife. Think about that. Now, Lori Lightfoot, you saw her with her white woman, but you didn't see this sorry, what's this Barbara Jordan looking dude? He looks like Barbara Jordan with the beard. He has the same ugly glasses. Um, you know what I'm talking about. He looks like he has those autism glasses that they used to give the kids on the special yellow bus.
Mm-hmm.
He has the same glasses. Remember the kids that were too poor to get glasses in school? They had like the big, ugly, thick rims on them. Those are broke ass kids got those glasses. Come on, man. You went to school and there was some poor ass people there. You know what I'm saying? He has those glasses. You didn't see him campaign with his woman that much. You don't see a lot of black candidates. You don't see that smiley face creep in New York campaigning with somebody. You don't see this stud in D.C. Campaign with him because you don't got no man. You don't see that. You don't see Keisha Lance Bottoms with her husband out there. You don't see that anymore. These black folks have to almost appeal as if they're omni or non-binary. That's part of how they campaign. It's almost like putting the family far off. Now, that's on the
Mm-hmm.
Democratic side. Now, on the Republican side, you might see people, and there are few of them, but they tend to be with the family. You see them. And the only one that really jacked up with family was Herschel Walker, and his ass lost. And his crime is everybody, in Georgia, too many people knew he liked coochie. And he had a bad campaign. So, a lot of people got bored. I like big gridirons, but he doesn't like me. So I'm gonna vote for the Mr. Potato Head looking Negro with the tight Marlene Dietrich suits on. Come on. Look at him, Warnock. Or I call him War Nuts. I mean, he does look like a Mr. Potato Head, a non-binary Mr. Potato Head. And Mr. Potato Head was lovable. This nigga's talking about killing babies. It's God's will. But anyway, Herschel Walker was the only black Republican candidate I saw whose family wasn't out there stumping for him. Now, Stacey Abrams, again, and I know she's got a woman somewhere. And it's not, and she's too big to be a needle in a haystack. She'd be a missile in a haystack. In fact, Stacey Abrams is so fat. She could have hang glided on those Chinese balloons that they had to shoot down. She's so big. I'm just telling you, she's fat, 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 fat. In fact, Hogzilla, Stacey Abrams, big, fat, greasy, In fact, and she had a jury crew. I'm trying to think, where is she? Do you know anybody that still has Jerry curl kids? I don't know. She must know some Asians that don't like black people that want to get fibroids and have stocked up on that shit. Um, because she had a Jerry curl. I was trying to figure out why. And then she was twerking for women. I mean, that doesn't move men, Stacy. Damn. And for her twerking for women, and maybe some men like. And in fact, I think that it's very deviant for a man that gets off to women getting on each other. I think there's something nasty about that. Yes, I said it. Now, as I was saying, I really, really, really believe that this election, like all this harassment of Trump, if they kill him, we're going to have a civil war. They killed Trump. If they steal the election, we're going to have a civil war. They're going to have to do something with Biden. I mean, you know, ain't no staircase low enough that he can't fall down. I mean, so I believe he's going to have to step down at some point. And the one good thing is if he stepped down, he won't be able to pardon his son once he gets convicted. And I'm telling everybody to watch. August is going to be the month of disaster for Biden. And God is good. He's in the blessing business. We're going to see his racist ass get stomped. Stuff's coming out in Delaware where the Bidens are untouchable, where the Bidens are a crime family. They're like the New York syndicate or the New York, what's that, the board of directors, you know, where all the mafia families come together. The Bidens are untouchable. But even in Delaware, their asses are getting in trouble. And this is happening because the people who run the country are tired. They don't want him to run. They want him to go somewhere. And there are other people who don't want, the people who want more deviant stuff pushed, and they like the way he's letting everybody come in the country. And now there's this tuberculosis warning. And, you know, they're putting all these people with all these filthy diseases in the black areas. So they're hoping for us to get tuberculosis and die. You get me? This, all the stuff is happening. And I'm also going back to DeSantis, who is an Italian American. There's a very good book called Blood of My Blood. I'm waiting for my copy to come. And Italians were only started making it to being white people like in the 1930s, 40s. Definitely by the 50s, they were sort of made it as white people. But Italians were seen as less than black people, were lynched and persecuted and lynched, literally killed in good numbers, and were treated horribly. Italians have had to work harder to prove their whiteness, and this is what he's trying to do. In Southern uh, politics, it was called niggering. And this is when, excuse me, when a politician, two politicians in opposing, would try to be more racist than the others to please white voters. This isn't really working for DeSantis. And the little Indian dude that was a Republican, even his ass got jammed by Tesla, and other people have been on him. This racial stuff, you can't quite do it like that these days. You can do it, but it can backfire because there are a lot more people who aren't white in the country than what these people want you to think. And it's not that these people love us, but they know, even though they act like they don't know they're not white, they know goodness well if you set this thing off, they could get dogged just like we do. A lot of Asians that are smart, not all. I'd say about a quarter of the Asians know that this is some stupid ass shit that they could open a can of whoop ass with some chop suey noodles in it if they mess around with it. Why? The same way that the stupid ass Asians got with the white supremacists to attack affirmative action, didn't realize they were cutting their throat. Affirmative action has done shit for black people since like the 90s, except for some black women who they use to keep black men from getting jobs. Hoes are good for that. But most of the affirmative action shit goes to white women. Now that they've got cut out affirmative action, these Asians aren't going to get shit. And they're crazy if they think white folks aren't going to send their kids to the elite schools because some people with smaller eyes, with high IQs want to go. When did talent giftedness and merit ever count to a white supremacist. So moving back around to DeSantis, he's attacking because of this stupid thing for the schools, which isn't going to work. And I think going back to what I said, DeSantis knows back in history, if you really get into history, Italians going to be found out not to be white people. So he's focusing all the attention on black people. See, a lot of people don't know Italians were slaves until the 1870s. Did you know that? Italian people were slaves?
I grew up around them people, man. So I knew the difference between an Sicilian and Neapolitan, and they tell you in
Yeah,
a minute, like they'll tell the Neapolitans in a minute, "Oh, you ain't really Italian, you ain't Sicilian, you got mixed blood with you."
yeah. Look, the Italians had slavery until the 1870s, people. Until the 1870s, 1860s. Okay, same period of time in which black people got free, Italians got free. They're lying to you. You didn't know that? They had slavery. These people were slaves to the Catholic Church. In Italy, they had what was called the Papal States. These people were basically slaves to the big landholders all over Italy,
We're
especially the
probably
southern part.
Dr. Short. We're probably the only ethnicity in this country that has never tried to assimilate to be white.
Well, no, we've tried to assimilate to be white, just you have too much melanin. It doesn't work. There are 25 to 30, there are millions and millions of people passing as white that know that shit's a lie.
Hmm.
Just everybody, look, basically, when you're a black man boinking a black woman, the baby's looks is like what the prize you get in Cracker Jacks. You get what the fuck is in the box. You can't say, "Well, I'm going to get a toy soldier or a dinosaur, or I'm going to get a racing car." You get whatever the fuck the prize is in there. So if you get kids with blue eyes and blonde hair, and you look at your wife like, "Man, have you been screwing Garth Brooks?" No, honey. I mean, I'm a quadriplegic. Right? You get what you get, and so we we have millions of people. They know that they're not white, and that's the other problem with this racism that DeSantis is pushing. And other people is that there are people out there that know goodness well. If you stir this stuff up too much, uh, do genealogical research, do DNA research. And I have a cousin. I'm talking about a third cousin who's white, and he looks like the ZZ Top video. And I was saying that, damn, I didn't think I had any relatives that look like they're from ZZ Top, or like
Now now, Dr. Short, you showing off your music acronym now.
Well, I mean, no, so not so much. And what is it? They look like the Charlie Daniels band, The Devil Went Down to Georgia. I says, I don't have any family that looks like that. These people look like Klansmen that would like burn a farm down or attack Black Wall Street. But that's, and trust me, I meet people and they can't figure out how is this and, uh, ooh, well, you mean I'm not white? A lot of folks and people lie in families and people start learning, oh yeah, well, I learned we're like about 20% black because so there are millions of these people. Not that they're gonna help our asses, but then again, those of us that are at least 70% or more black, we don't help ourselves either. If we started working together, damn, let's start with people that are at least 50% black and up.
Mm.
So DeSantis knows. In fact, if I want to shut DeSantis down, is demand a blood test on him. Let's do a DNA test. His ass would shut the hell up. Black folks are not in politics. Now, I've noticed the one thing I have to say this week, Senator Tim Scott, Congressman James, I think John James, if I'm correct, but James is definitely the last name, from Michigan, a new black congressman,
Hmm.
and the Jamaican congressman Byron David for Florida, have attacked DeSantis over the racism in the school thing. Black Republicans, conservative ones are speaking up. You never see Black Democrats stand up to Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer or Obama or Biden, no matter what's happened to us.
Nancy Pelosi told the squad fall back, and they fell back, and they ain't been right since.
Mm-hmm.
And even I know from being in the area, uh, AOC and Hakeem Jeffries was rivals, but ever since he became their top dog, she don't even say nothing no more. She usually got her camera crew following her around wherever she go. You don't even see her in the news no more because they done told them to fall back, so they don't even try to buck their own party. But I'm glad Tim Scott spoke up. Tim Scott, you know, I don't even know how his campaign is going. I haven't even looked into his campaign to see how well it's going. I know RFK said that he that he can't get no Secret Service protection.
But well, Biden's a bastard, man. You know they want him to get whacked. You know, if anything else, well, at least RFK they'll put his ass on a new coin that they put out when they shoot him. Have all kinds of shit named for him after they bumps you off. That's what they do with Kennedy's.
Father
Shoot him
like
and make him
son,
money. Yes,
son like father.
and like uncle shit, and like your nephew, they killed his ass on the plane. They've like jacked up. I mean, you know, they're basically the White King family. This is to be bumping people off and giving them monuments and shit. Oh,
They
whoa.
ain't even give him. They said, we'll give you protection when it's appropriate. It's not appropriate yet. Damn.
But yet Hunter Biden has a detail, and he probably needs that many people to fetch dope for him and keep it to be discreet. You know that some of them have had to do drug runs and shit for Hunter. And see, they can't get arrested because they cops.
Mm.
Can you imagine? You know, we're going to park. Just go in the evidence room and take some cop stuff. They would never think you did it. I think you're right, right? And they go and take the shit out the evidence room. Snort, 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 snort.
Have
And
you
them
ever
start
had
singing.
Have you ever had Secret Service writing books and talking about some of the stuff they witnessed? These last couple of administrations, boy, they definitely got some stuff to talk about.
Well, Bongino has it out. I mean, did you ever hear about the things talking about Hillary Clinton throwing lamps and things at Bill because he wanted to watch her have sex with a woman in the residential part of the White House, and she wouldn't let him see it, and he was crying. All he wanted to do is watch two women screw. And so, no, Bill, this is just us. You can't watch.
Mm.
And when he tried to watch anyway, Hillary got violent. No, none for you. And the Secret Service had to go, and because they heard all this crashing, they thought someone was being attacked, and it was Hillary throwing stuff at Bill. You can't watch me go down on this woman. You can't enjoy it. It's not for you. hmm This happened. It's in Dan Bongino's book.
Hey, let me ask you, Doctor Show. We haven't discussed this. So this would be the first time we even discussed it, even on the phone. What's your thoughts on what's going on with Ice Cube?
You know, I don't really talk much about celebrities because celebrities are crowd pleasers. Black people need to understand, in particular, a lot of folks, you can't really get, nor should you expect, a famous person is not a political leader of any sort. Sometimes you get people that do that now, like the white dude that stood up for Bud Light, that went after that drag queen, and which is great. But that doesn't always happen. You can get a very political entertainer or athlete or whatever, but that's typically not the norm because an entertainer is to make money and please people, and they are sponsored. And the corporate people want to make money. They don't want to bring about justice or fairness. They just want to get paid, right?
Hmm.
So let's do this right now. Ice Cube uh, has been, I guess, to some degree, his own person. Like I remember he did the movie Glass Shield. That's like decades ago, which was a good film. Do you remember that film?
Yeah.
Most people don't know about that film. It was a serious, intelligent film. It's different from practically all the films that Ice Cube has done. It's a straightforward justice, no police brutality film. It didn't make the kind of money Are We There Yet made. The money isn't on Black consciousness and Black awareness. It's not supported. So he's in a business that demands compromise. I believe they're trying to cancel him. I believe they want to destroy him. I the mistake that Ice Cube has made is when you start standing up, and doing things, you have to understand that the people that you who pay you, and see, he's paid. He's a multimillionaire. He has more money than anybody who's Black out there talking. That's the way it goes. They did that. In fact, he represents a kind of tragic twist in the culture of Black people. What do I mean by that? I mean that NWA and all these rappers and people all emerged in the mid and late 80s to get a national, following. I mean, there were people who had hits, Curtis Blow, what's this thing? Uh, this, I'm sure, who's the guy that did the message, Don't Push Me Because I'm Close to the Edge? Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. Curtis Blow, uh, the Sugar Hill Gang. There's certain people who had hits. They may have even sold records in the millions, but you didn't really see a breakout to rap music and to the mainstream where there's lots and lots of money that until Walk This Way, right? That's the first time you got a mainstream major hit album and all for a Black rap group.
Hmm.
Hold on, I gotta put this damn cat outside. They're acting very stupid. Um, they do this every August. Okay. Uh, Before Walk This Way, you didn't see top 10 hits, top 10 albums for hip hop artists. No matter how popular they were with Black people, they never reached a mass rotation in MTV or anything. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
In fact, you didn't get a lot of Blacks on MTV until Billie Jean, which came out in November of 19. No, Thriller came out in November 82. Billie Jean came out in 83. And if you recall, Sony Records, Yetnikoff, one of the heads of CBS, threatened to pull off all the videos off of MTV if they didn't play Billie Jean. And Billie Jean was doing great, right? And so Michael Jackson, ascendancy in pop, and the that was generated for black artists in general. And in '83, allowed the rap people to be seen. NWA, I think, breaks out in '88. So, dudes, these people that began to break out in '88, it coincides with people who are my generation, Xers. Those of us that were born mid to late '60s were just getting through college and into grad school at the time that this music took off. And whereas it used to be in times prior, people who achieved in school or science were showcased in the black community, they put all the emphasis on the rappers and these performers doing stupid, spelling shit backwards, wearing everything that once was one way, all got changed as to keeping it real for this black culture that was controlled by Russell Simmons and other people to redo and replug black folks. I'm going somewhere, stay with me. So, in other words, folks like myself, people I knew, Harvard, Princeton, Yale, making a significant, we were sidelined by the artists, by these entertainers. They were made the face and the spokesperson. I remember someone saying rap music was the CNN of black people. That's absurd. That these dumb fuck people were the ones that nobody else had anything to say. I recall volunteering for the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation when they would do, and they would never ask somebody like me, a graduate, to speak, but they would get rappers who would then say stupid shit, and then they would attribute that to all black men being misogynists, and they wouldn't talk to people who went to school. Women, these niggas are dropouts, it's a druggies, it's drug dealers. How come they're so much better than everybody else? You understand? I'm going somewhere with this. So the we got generations of blacks have been uh, positive things have been downplayed, and the stupid shit of these celebrities have been overplayed, overhyped, overcompensated. And I can recall being in school and all the girls at Howard was screaming over Ice Cube. No problem. We remember Morris Day and the Time and so forth. But all of this, I can recall a time, '70s, when people were impressed by folks who were fighting for black people. Stokely Carmichael's coming. Whether these people are perfect or not, H. Rap Brown is coming. People who were really saying or trying to do something, at least faking like they were the people that folks were listening to in the '50s, '60s, '70s. And then in the late '80s, it's these people. And they were made into the voice of black people. And they've pushed all kinds of crap. In fact, in the latest, they're pushing gayness, non-binary, trans. They became the mouthpiece of our people. And nobody, no matter how good or legitimate, you really can't compete. If you're a community person, there are grassroots people doing great stuff all over the country, my friend. And you'll never hear about them because they haven't sold a million records that don't have a mixtape, or they haven't done, and therefore they don't count. And so
And
you see,
people will literally tell you that a rapper who may have some money, they got a better pulse of the culture than somebody that we see every day.
and people accept that. And also, the same thing happened with athletes. And so the amount of money that athletes get now is so much more than was ever given to people back when you had folks really saying stuff. Elvin Jones, some of these people were real people. Jim Brown never got the kind of money these sorry ass people get now. And yet they're constantly following them and their foibles. And if they're in a car with drugs or a white girl, they beat someone. They've made these people our face, our voice. And you meet people in their 40s and 50s that want to break into the rap game. Stupid shit like that. I mean, so many people want to be rappers. You know, I had a nigga call me that I met once in church, and I thought it was something serious, and what it was is that he had over $2,000 in parking tickets and wanted to know if I'd give him money for his parking tickets. And I told him, "You mean you called me when I was in the hospital awaiting open heart surgery, and you're calling me about this? I thought it was serious, right?" And I says, "Dude, well, you're gonna have to pay that. Are you? Do you want someone to help you find a job or whatever?" No, well, how are you gonna pay for it? Well, I've got a mixtape, and all of these, the imagination of generations are caught up in being
Mixtape.
famous, rich rappers with bling, with hoes and bitches and strippers, and this is the whole mindset of millions of our people. Some of them into their 50s and 60s want to be stupid like this thing that Jay-Z and Ice Cube and Easy E and Diddy and all these people have promoted this stupid shit, and they've been rewarded for misguiding the people for close to 40 years and never thinking, why am I meet people, they've gone to jail or they were doing something, or my best buddy who was out selling dope one day realized, I don't want to do this. This isn't right. I'm making money, but I can do something else, right? I've seen a lot of people, it didn't take them 30, 40 years, and they didn't have millions of dollars stacked up before they were willing to be real about what's happening to their people. Now, I'm not attacking Ice Cube at all. I'm just having this conversation with you that Ice Cube, dude, when you can turn down $9 million, you're a wealthy man. Why are you still in this? In fact, if you want to speak and stand for something, your days as an entertainer are over. Your days as an actor are over.
Well, if you don't know that now, the Democratic Party has waged war on him, and they're gonna make
Well,
sure that he don't eat.
the Democratic Party isn't his problem. His problem are the people that run Hollywood. His problem is Ari Emanuel. His problem are the people
Hmm.
that run the business, the Clive Davises, the people who run that don't, they don't say, they're not like Ingraham that says, shut up and dribble. They don't do that. They didn't say to Michael Jackson, shut up and sing. All of a sudden Michael Jackson doesn't get hits. He doesn't get airplay in America, but Michael Jackson may have something like 30 number one records in Turkey. Did you know that? 30.
Hmm.
Michael Jackson, I think, has 12 in the United States. He has 30 in Turkey. I think as many as 20 in Spain. Michael Jackson was selling tens of millions of records worldwide when he was being shut down in America, and most Americans don't look outside this country. We're only 4 or 5% of the world's population. Michael Jackson was doing great everywhere but here. Those folks were going to punish him. You're not going to get the American market making certain people mad.
Hmm.
Ice Cube has, by this point, you've got to figure out who runs things in the music business. It's not black people. These people don't want a whole bunch of controversy, and well, at least not controversy that they don't want. They want people doing what they say the way they say it when they say it. Okay, that's what they want. So Ice Cube needs to decide, make up his mind. if he's going to be a free man or a rich ass slave. He can't be both. They're not going to allow both. There are a lot of people who are more talented, better actors, everything better than him, who basically says, I don't want it. I'm not going to do this. I'm going to be true to what I believe in. That's just part of the rap game, the other stuff that I hate. It's taught black folks that character and integrity don't mean anything. If it doesn't have a bunch of cash and dollars, it's zero. I'm not knocking money. I'm clear that you need capital, and capitalism is what runs this country. But sometimes principles stand. Do you realize you don't have Mexicans playing negative stereotypes of Mexicans? You don't have Asians doing stuff, Indians doing stuff the way you can get black folks to do degenerate stuff that makes us all look bad for small amounts of money. Then, bitch, they can't get any other role. I can't get any other role than being a prostitute. Because just if none of us would go to see movies where we were prostitutes and wouldn't play it, they wouldn't sell it. Hmm? So Ice Cube did something else that was quite, I would consider, politically stupid. He shouldn't have made himself the target of this. But Ice Cube needs to be the center of attention because he still wants to be famous. Now let's look at what he did that was wrong. You know damn well, whether you're a businessman or not, a very wealthy businessman, that you haven't been out here doing politics. There are people who've been taking hits for years around politics, around reparations, around black. Why didn't you say, hey, look, I'm going to put $1 million or $2 million into a foundation to do stuff around policy for blacks to get money. And I'm going to do it that way. I'm going to list some smart niggas, people who can work for 60 or 70,000, who don't need millions a year, that don't need to be on TV, don't need to be on a poster or a t-shirt, that will do the things necessary that I believe in. Right? Why not? Why couldn't that have happened? Why did it have to be him, the face of it? It's this thing. That's a conversation I have with you, where the niggas that want to hog everything. I have to have all the attention. I have to have all the money. It's all me. What they should have done has been, hey, Claude Anderson, he's broke, he's sick, he's suffering. Throw him $100,000. Do a concert. Don't even come out your own pocket. And we're going to have a black economic concert. $1,000 a seat, $2,000 a seat, people would pay. And you can bring your own blunt, bring your own bottle, as much as I hate alcohol and smoking, and raise that money and let somebody that knows all about that do that. And all I have to do is put some money on this, say, well, I think that we should have this, that, or the other. And you know what? He'd be a hero. And you know what? He'd have people with degrees and all. It'd be much harder for people to attack him because you'd have all these economists and historians and other people that would back him up. But he wasn't willing to share. And I'll say something to you. There are a lot, this is what they do to stupid ass black people. And black people are stupid as shit. Just because they let you have $100 million, and the person that went to UCal Berkeley, or the person that went to Stanford, or the people who are bright are making $45,000 a year, and they know all about the issues. Just because they didn't get rich doesn't mean you're smarter than them. It means that their investment was in something greater than themselves, and there's no money on that. See, white people that are rich, even sometimes artists, they invest in think tanks and policy groups to do stuff. Black folks don't want to do that. They somehow think things in this greedy ass society just ought to be because.
And
That's
then
bullshit.
and then
It's
Dr. Short,
bullshit.
to second what you're saying is then they'll get on social media and say, "Oh, we push the culture. Oh, it's all us. We drive the culture. Drive the culture where?"
They're not driving the culture because he's not the first person to have an economic idea. He's not the only person. And see, he could have that conversation because what Trump is starstruck, and it's a campaign year, and they want attention. They want black votes. They weren't serious about him, but they talked to him, and ultimately he didn't endorse Trump, so he bullshitted. You didn't. The Democrats wouldn't back you, and you wouldn't go with the Republicans either. You didn't want to do anything. You sort of, what the hell was it all about? Did your ego catch you up? Did you really think you that's serious? You're gaming. If you didn't want to lose your livelihood, why didn't you put the money on someone that wasn't afraid to do that? Someone that's been doing it and say, I've been listening to this person. There was, I'm forgetting the name, I think Harry, um, I'm forgetting the name of the black academic who knew about black athletes, and forgive me, but he worked with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He
Dr.
worked with
Harry Edwards.
Harry Edwards. I said Harry. Forgive me for not remembering the last name. Harry Edwards. He gave a legitimacy to those black athletes back then.
Hmm.
See, he had PhDs. I mean, they can hate him. I hate him. He's a nigga, but he has a PhD from one of these big schools. Right? He's got paper. I don't know if Ice Cube has paper, or maybe he has honorary degrees, but there are plenty. We have millions of blacks who hold degrees, who studied, who know black is, that know all of this. What I'm trying to say to you, and I'm a long way, but let me just go directly. They've bred contempt among black people for black folks who are intellectuals, who are academics, who do that kind of thought work. And what's happened in this country, they've done it on so many levels. They've purged all the black folks out of public education, primary, secondary, post secondary. Um, you'll see black folks with degrees working in Starbucks, and yet you'll meet Negroes off of death row making millions of dollars as singers, or kids that leave junior high school, senior high school, and they go into NBAs and make more money than people who studied and did the kind of work. And yet, white folks who are bright like that, there's a place and an infrastructure for people that think, that can write, that do things for the advancement of white people. Black folks are systematically underdeveloped and deprived the sector that we absolutely need to do the shit that they asked him to talk about that he wasn't in reality qualified to do in terms of his academic status. I'm not saying he couldn't talk, he's free to say whatever he wanted to. But the minute he stepped out there, folks can say, well, where did he go to school? That, see, it's interesting. They'll put them on TV, CNN, they'll celebrate all these people. And then all of a sudden they'll ask the question, um, what's your degree in? What level of education did you get? And this is a situation I encounter all the time. And in fact, I deal with this when people come to you. Let me just say this to you, brother, how it happens. A lot of times people have a problem at their job or whatever. And you know what? They haven't done a certain amount of work intellectually. They can't write. They don't read too well. There are a range of things and they're going up against white folks who have a legal department, a policy, and they can smash you
Yeah, Dr. Short,
because huh?
I witnessed that at my job. That when we're dealing with safety issues, people will look at you like you don't know what you're talking about, unless you could tell them like, look, I've been doing this, I'm certified in safety in this area, so I know what I'm talking about. And you're right that he should at least had a think tank around him.
It would have deflected everything. Had he had a couple of people with degrees, all of a sudden it's scary. Why? Because white people, whereas black people hate black folks who are educated, white people are terrified of educated Negroes that are not in their service. You want to see a white go to a university, you want to see people be terrified. The black folks who don't want to kiss their ass are frightening to them. No matter how nice, you don't want to bow down to them, they can't control you. Hmm? I'll give you an example. I was talking to a white gentleman who was one of the teaching fellows when I was in divinity school at the big name Harvard. All right. Anyway, and we were talking about where black people were under such pressure. This is 30 some odd years ago. And, he said, what you black people need? You need a Bruder bond. And he looked me in the eyes and says, you know what? You're exactly right. The Broederbond is basically a secret semi-Nazi society for the Dutch-speaking whites in South Africa. They use this secret society to hijack the Dutch community, the Boer community, and make them stand up to the English and take what was theirs. So they felt. He didn't know I knew what the Broederbond was. And when he said the Broederbond and my eyebrows got big and my eyes lit up, you're right. He ran. He went and told everybody, wait, short. He's crazy. He wants he wants a black minority rule over white people. I just said, Bruno, he knows what it is. He wants to do it to you. Is it a bad one? Don't worry about them. He's short. He's crazy. He wants to rule. He wants to make white people slaves. I never said anything like that. Just the thought for him as a white South African, for me to know what the Broederbond was and agree that it was a great idea, scared the shit out of him.
Mm.
Damn, that's a black who wants a secret group to punish and take down white people. Oh, him, and he's here to school of religion, walk around all night. No, 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 no. He's bad. Whenever he'd see me, he would run. He's from South Africa. They being outnumbered, they're very keen that you don't want black folks too smart. And what did they have in South Africa? They had a thing called Bantu education to make certain that black people didn't get too smart. Give them just enough education to serve white people, no more. So mind you, here's a person that comes from a society of Bantu education. He's in America. He's talking to a black American at a very good school. And he's talking about a white group that hijacked the country and took it over for a minority group. He says it to a black person who's in a minority group, and the black person loves the idea. And he knows he's white and he knows I'm black. It was terrifying because he says he would do it. I could see in his eyes. I heard he's coming for us. And the other thing that scared him is that the Broederbond started from people in schools of religion in South Africa. It was religious students that came up with the idea. And so I'm in a religious school, and I'm literally thinking about a secret society to take over. Because I knew what the Broederbond was, there's no way I just heard about it. He figured out he's been thinking about this. That's awful. He tried to flunk me in a class to keep me from finishing school. He's just didn't want me to get out. I'm just saying to you that they're terrified of people that think. They're terrified of folks who would dare to think. So our whole culture teaches black folks to be stupid, not to think, to celebrate mediocrity and stupidity and buffoonery and twerking and all the stuff you see. In reality, is the opposite of what black culture that was developed was. There's a very fine author who's a friend of mine named Dr. Wilson Jeremiah Moses, and he has several books. One of the books, The Golden Age of Black Nationalism, I think it's from 1850 to 1925. It used to be among black people that folks were learning Latin, Greek, German, Russian, Japanese. There were a whole lot of black folks. They may have never been able to be anything but a postman, but they were smart as shit. It was expected that you weren't stupid. Being dumb was associated with being poor. Now it's just the opposite. Being dumb is a way to be rich. They flipped the culture around. And so Ice Cube and all them are participants in black dumbness being in. Like Drink Champs and all these other stupid things, they get all the attention. The Breakfast Club, dumbass people get everything. You won't see a Tony Brown. You don't see these things. And these people should be ashamed that they throw millions of dollars at you clowning and buffooning. And yet they're very bright folks who got books, folk who've gone to jail, all this kind of stuff. And it doesn't count. So if Ice Cube who's been lavished, has some difficulty, tough titty, bitty. It goes with that. There are black folks who are homeless, black folks that are hungry, and there are black people who are rich in this country who don't say a goddamn thing about the rest of us being destroyed. Is it because if he's a musician and speaks up and he's popular that we cry if he loses a few dollars when you've got thousands of people losing everything, being put in tents all over the country? You mean we're worried about him? We're being canceled as a race. Suffering should be collective. The reason we had a movement against Jim Crow segregation was they made everybody's ass get on the back of the bus, not just broke black people.
Mm.
I'm reading a book right now when you reached out to me, and I'm in the section of the book, and it's talking about how black people felt, the rich black people felt about the poor ass black people. And it even talks about, it's in Louisiana, and it talks about how 3,000 black people who were free became part of the Confederate Army to hold black people down. In fact, he makes a point to say that the free black people joined the Confederate armed forces in far greater proportions than whites in Louisiana.
Now, Dr. Short, you know everybody in the chat gonna want to know that book.
Yeah, I'm getting to the book. I'm upstairs. I'm coming downstairs. And we need to do a commercial. And I had to buy this book. This book cost me like $40. When this is what reason I'm kind. I just had to spend like $100 today. Some stuff I just had to have, and it's like a cocaine habit. You got to have some books, and because I need it for my research. So definitely, while you're on here, we've been at this for a minute. Take a moment to like this show. Take a moment to like this show. Take a moment to like this show. Take a moment to retweet this show. If you haven't subscribed to Let's Talk to, subscribe. We're at 520 plus people. That is an incredible rise from just 4 weeks ago. Isn't that right, brother?
Yep.
We want to be at 1,000. In fact, we should be at 10,000. And we can do that. We can do that for one another, right? Now, let me get the book for you. I'm looking at it right now. And hold on one second. And this book, look at this. Uh, the book is called The Crucible of Reconstruction: War, Radicalism, and Race in Louisiana, 1862 to 1877. I have a picture of the book. Let me see if I can send it to you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you sent it to me. I'll put it in the community section.
I'll treat you like you're white.
That's right.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I'm gonna send you. I got a couple of books that came in today. I had to here we go. I'm gonna send this to you right now. And that means I can text it to you, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna
So
send now.
everybody that's in the chat, I'll put it in the community section as soon as I get it, you guys.
And I'm gonna read a little bit of this because I'm kind of tired of coons. Okay, I just sent that to you. Now let me read what some of this said because it's really interesting. Let me see. Okay, listen to this.
Yeah, you guys, if you're interested in buying the book will be in the community section. A copy of the book. What the name of the book is that Dr. Short just referenced to. Make sure you hit the like, share, subscribe button. Hitting the like button is, you always hear a lot of people that create content talk about it, but literally hitting the like button is probably more support for a person's page than anything. That and watching a video and engaging. So anytime you hit the like button, it's highly appreciated.
Okay, are
Yeah.
you there?
Yep.
Where did I cut off? Because you kept speaking. I was going to finish this. I'm almost done. It's only a little bit.
I,
Hello?
yeah, I'm here, Dr. Short.
I'm going to go back up to here and just say after 1803, the Americans disbanded the black militia, but the event soon led them to reconsider their decision. In 1811, free men of color volunteered to fight against rebellious slaves marching on New Orleans. You've all heard about that big black slave revolt in Louisiana. What they didn't tell you is that the bushy Negroes came out to shoot their asses down.
Hmm.
Although the white militia and American regulars put down the revolt, the territorial governor used a company of free Negroes to relieve the white units. The loyalty of the gens de couleur, that means the people of color, in that crisis led the government to revive the battalion of the free men of color. And in late 1814, with the British threatening New Orleans, it created a second battalion. Both units fought with distinction under Andrew Jackson, the racist, and the Battle of New Orleans, winning the respect and approval of winning the approval of hostile Americans. Their bravery in the last and greatest battle of 1812 was commemorated annually in the antebellum New Orleans and helped secure the rights and privileges of free blacks down to the Civil War. Are you getting me?
Mm.
Now let me read some more. You'll love this. I want you to hear this. Okay. Before the war, they're making reference to the Civil War. The journalist noted that free Negroes held themselves aloof from the slaves, and particularly from the plantation Negroes. This attitude, he believed, no longer prevailed. As one free black candidly told him, "We see that our future is indissolubly bound up with that of the Negro race in this country, and we have resolved to make common cause and rise and fall with them. We have no rights which we can reckon safe, while the same are denied to the field hands on the sugar plantations." Okay, now listen to this. While he compiled his narrative for publication the following year, Reed failed to note that his informant's remarks and the tone and spirit of the interview between Chief Justice Chase and the well-bred gentleman in the library were not entirely harmonious. Individuals described by Reed represented the elite of what had been the largest free black community in the Deep South. In 1860, 18,647 free Negroes lived in Louisiana, 10,689 of them in New Orleans. First as Black Unionists, then as Black Republicans, they played a crucial role in Louisiana during the Civil War and the Reconstruction. Let me skip here. Although the slave population of New Orleans numbered 13,385 at the time of the Civil War, the city's black political leaders from the Reconstruction period almost to a man were former free men of color. In other words, get to the back of the bus, darkies. From the French colonial days down to the Civil War, the gens de couleur occupied a comparatively secure place in Louisiana society. True, they endured rigid social discrimination, but it was also true, as the state Supreme Court ruled in 1856, In the eyes of the Louisiana law, there are all the differences between a free man of color and a slave that there is between a white man and a slave.
Mm.
Moreover, it has been settled doctrine here. The High Court held a High Court had I'm sorry the High Court had held a decade earlier that light-skinned persons of color are presumed to be free. Free Negroes own real property and personal property, including slaves. Contracted legal marriages, testified against whites in courts of law, learned trades and professions, and participate in the music and the arts. Are you understanding me?
Mm-hmm.
The black folks who do okay have always done okay. It's temporary how they feel about others. Now, here we go. Over the years, the relationship between free Negroes and slaves was an uneasy one. Free Negroes too often achieved their gains at the expense of slaves, as they did after the slave revolt of 1811. The colonial period, the free black militia constituted the white society's strongest ally against servile revolt. Nor did the origins of the free Negro population make for harmony with the slave masses, and the wars and the rebellions that ravaged Santo Domingue in the 1790s and 1800s. Light-skinned Negro freemen often fought as the allies of the French. That means they fought for enslavement of the darker-skinned people in Haiti. Or after 1803, simply as enemies of the blacks. Free Negroes fled the island in ever-increasing numbers, and thousands eventually made their way to Louisiana. Largely as a consequence of that immigration, the free Negro population of Louisiana grew from 1,300 in 1785 to nearly 8,000 in 1810. The 2nd Battalion of Negro Militia, formed during the Battle of New Orleans, was comprised almost entirely of immigrants who had fought for the French in Santo Domingue. There also developed a class of black slaveholders. In 1830, some 753 free Negroes in New Orleans owned 2,351 slaves. Rural Louisiana evolved a larger class of slaveholding free blacks than any other southern state. Whether it was true, as many slaves believed, that free Negroes made cruel masters, or simply that psychologically it was more painful to serve a black master than a white one. The quip, "You be's as bad as a free nigger," was a common rebuke among bondsmen and the antebellum New Orleans. Initially, free Negroes in Louisiana reacted to the outbreak of war between the North and South in 1861 as if the British had once again landed on the Gulf Coast. At Point Coupé, Natchitoches, and Plaquemine parishes, slave-owning free blacks organized militia companies for protection against slave revolts and the defense of the homeland. Well-to-do men of color in New Orleans contributed to the defense fund of the Committee on Public Safety, and the city's free Negro men offered their military services to the Confederacy. Are y'all hearing me? And so we need to be very, very real that the black folks who are doing great, they don't sacrifice anything but to help themselves. It's historically, it's not just New Orleans. You had similar stuff all over the country. So if Ice Cube has become a wealthy, powerful man in his own right, if he's truly going to be a man of the people, then he should throw some benefits to people and bring them in. And in the same way that these people formed a militia to fight for white rights in their own in the 1860s, why couldn't this happen now? It is a decision not to do it. I'm not saying that he's a bad guy. I'm not saying that he's not for black folks. But you need institutions. He can't stand as a man alone. And I bet you he'll say, I'm not a politician. But black is political. Our condition is political. what made us like we are is politics.
Mm.
I mean, so the I'm tired of people having it both ways. Somebody suffered for you to get the contracts. My adopted granny was the reason his ass can fly on a plane in first class. Somebody fought for it. So these people who make all this money and look, and then they halfway do something, and if there's some repercussion, well, damn it. There are repercussions every day that people face. Why are celebrities and other people not supposed to get some whiplash when the rest of us do? Not that I want them to get whiplash, but damn. Now, once you put your mouth in the struggle, you got to cash the check. So that's what I want to say about that. If Ice Cube gets canceled, he's rich. He can have his own label, have your own studio. Tyler Perry shows up, whether you like what he makes or not, you can do your own thing. Why are you still running to people who hate you to give you roles? Why would you, as a multimillionaire, go to people that hate you and then be put in a situation where you have to think about taking some poison into your system to be in a project that most of the money is going to go to somebody else? You're not living independent. Go to Africa somewhere. Go to the Caribbean somewhere, set up a studio. Just make small films that people would watch. Dolomite, sorry ass films made money. These people don't have to be dependent. They want to be on the plantation. And frankly, I'm not so certain that Jay-Z doesn't want to be on the plantation. Or should I say he wants a flexi plantation plan. Sometimes I do the plantation, sometimes I don't. If the plantation pays enough, I'll deal with it. Some people don't have a choice but to work for something owned by other people. They don't have money in the bank. They don't have millions. They don't have homes. But when you see black folks who have millions, who are still scratching their heads, it seems strange to me. Why? Other than you're a slave. A free man or a rich ass slave. We need to stop pretending that we don't see this. When you see basketball players, you're making $100, $200 million a year. I'm not saying that I don't want you to be a billionaire, but if they're pimping and mistreating you, how come those guys haven't created a union? These athletes who are making all this money, more money than you and I will ever see. In fact, the people come to see them, they could demand it. It's because of a bitchiness, a pettiness, a refusal to come together, to stand together and get something. If black sleeping car porters with no lawyers could stand up to the country, that's one of the books I bought on the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters. A handful of black men stood up to the whole country in the 1930s, 80 years ago. We can't do it now. No, we're refusing to do it now. By the way, my Cash App, Dr. Randy Short, Dr. Randy Short, or you can PayPal me. That's wrandyshort at gmail.com. That's a Zelle too. And of course, my group, my political group is Backpack, BACPAC.info. There's a donation link there. You can even send $1. We're trying to make people think. Now, that was lengthy, but did I answer your question? So I'm not anti Ice Cube, but he's rich. I know people, my family should have lived in California. These folks want my father to come and be a chaplain at one of the schools in Pasadena. And my dad said he'd come out there. He wanted to make certain that he looked after black students because he was at Howard. Howard wasn't paying him. The white people were going to pay him. My father wanted to make certain that he was there to help young black folks on the college campus. Pasadena wanted him to serve white people, and there'd be some blacks, of course. My dad turned the money down. A lot of people would have taken the money. I get it. A lot of folks didn't take the deal. They didn't take the cash. They put their trust and their belief that I've got to help my own. The reason that we're fucked up as a collective is most people are selfish. They're despicable individualists, and they won't speak up or do anything for the collective. I'm not saying not to take care of yourself. I'm not saying not to have a nice house, a nice car, money in the bank. But I'm saying when is there enough? I recall when there was corruption in the National Baptist Convention, when the president had stolen hundreds of thousands of dollars from a black church, the largest black church in the country. And my cousin, then at Emory, who later became the president of Morehouse, Dr. Robert Michael Franklin. Yes, I'm talking about my cousin. And I says, why won't we denounce this crooked, no good, jackleg nigger preacher? He's a fraud. We should go after him. And and I said to him, well, let me ask you something, sir. How much money would you have to have in the bank to stand up for black people? I'm going to start off with 50 million. I didn't hear anything. I said $250 million, a half billion. I still didn't get an answer. And I says, Doc, in as much as you call yourself a minister, you call yourself someone that stands for black people, if I have to put a price tag on what you need to have before you'll do what is right to serve black folks, you're not much of a Christian. And in fact, there'll never be enough money for you to stand up at all. And that is the reality of black folks who have. They don't want to risk anything or say anything or do anything. And as a result, this has emboldened people like DeSantis to attack and work to destroy us. Black people who could do better have said, kill the weak ones. We're good. That's the situation that we're in.
Sometimes, family, you don't need much proof on why we're in the condition we're in, but Dr. Short just eloquently explained it. And even Ice Cube, and this is something that I need people in the chat to understand. A lot of times we assume that guys come from a certain background,
From the hood, just say it.
our street.
We think that broke
Yeah,
niggas care.
we,
Negroes who didn't have anything, Negroes who came up with roaches and rats, have some real love for the community. That's the
we
biggest ass lie I've ever
we
seen.
sometimes think that these guys know how to move, but the reality is that, like Dr. Short explained, that in the position that Ice Cube has been in, and we want our brother to be successful in whatever he's trying to do. However, when you're fighting against this beast, you can insulate yourself. And insulating yourself with surrounding yourself around, like Dr. Short, a think tank of people who can get some real tangible policies done. One of the things about when we speak about reparations and stuff like this is that it's not going to just be given to us. You're going to have to take your money because it's owed to you. It's not something you're asking for. You're not begging the government to give you reparations. No, they owe you. It's a debt that needs to be paid. And literally, ain't nobody giving you nothing unless you demand it, unless you take it. So,
But
my
more
perspective,
importantly, they have been taking from us all along. Let's get
absolutely.
that right. We're the ones who've been robbed. And the way that they spin this thing is that they're going to get robbed. That's like a pimp telling his whole, you mean you want me to buy you a new fur coat? How am I going to afford it? And you say the same way you afford the caddy that I paid for, all of them.
Now get. So you guys appreciate your support. Remember to like, share, subscribe. If anybody got any questions in reference to what Dr. Short talked about tonight, make sure you guys ask the questions before we close the show out. And remember to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, tell a friend and tell a friend. Dr. Short's Cash App is on the screen. $ Dr. Randy Short.
Mm, mm, mm. So
Yeah. Also, family, we got some. Tomorrow night we're gonna have Dr. Winters is gonna be on to explain and have a discussion on critical race theory. As you know, Dr. Short is always invited to come on whenever he chooses to come on. So he's invited to come on as well. And we have some stuff that we're going to try to work on within the next week or two, definitely for the month of August and going forward, and really trying to do different things and have different discussions that could be beneficial for all of us.
Mm.
Dr. Short, do you have any last words? Oh, somebody got a question.
Hmm.
Somebody said, I have a question. How big, if a chump, is Tim Scott?
Um, Tim Scott is a very cautious politician. He's denounced DeSantis. And they're butting heads. He's a deep South politician, black, and he's one thing. Like, I know he went and confronted Trump about racism in the White House. He didn't do it in a loud way, but he went in and basically told Trump back up off of some stuff. He is not going to satisfy us who want Jim Brown. If you want Jim Brown, you want Nat Turner, you want Petey Wheatstraw, you want John Shaft. That's never going to happen. If you know anything about South Carolina, let me just remind you, there's that town in Alabama that's 85% black with a black mayor. It's been 80% black for decades. They've only had a black mayor the last 2 years, and that mayor hasn't been allowed to be seated by a handful of white people. If you live in a big city and you haven't lived in some small, piss ass southern towns, I have. If you haven't lived in small towns down south and you live in Chicago or Baltimore or some big ass black city where you've got tens of thousands of people where you might find some like minded people, try being in a small town like that White Crackers sing about and that country record. That shit's real talk. The civil rights movement didn't change shit in vast ways of this country. Not a damn thing has changed. It's the same. Even when towns are 90, 80, 75% black, white people run every damn thing. And the black folks are scared. They don't trust one another. They sell you out, male and female. And he's coming from an environment like that. And the fact that he's achieved anything, not that I'm excusing the absence of militancy, he's more outspoken than a whole lot of Negro Congress members who are in safe districts who don't say shit, who've sucked Nancy Pelosi's ass for the last 16 years until they're not saying anything now. So relatively speaking, there have been some legislative things to try to help black people that Tim Scott has tried to do quietly. He's not very powerful. And if you know anything about South Carolina, it defies gravity that his ass is even there on any level. I do not think he'll win the presidency. I think that his mission is to have a black person run to attract the sort of people who are more moderate to vote Republican. Um, what is very clear about him is that you don't see him visibly attacking black people, which is unusual for a lot of black Republicans. And he's had to play a good boy to get to where he is. There is a possibility if he ever became powerful, he might be a full black man. Clarence Thomas, love him or hate him, if you read the decision about affirmative action where he trashed it, except for affirmative action for people who are descendants of slaves. The most radical thing that's been done in decades, Clarence Thomas, of all people, basically said that it could be done and it could be considered for the descendants of people that were enslaved. In other words, the only affirmative action that he could understand is one just for us. No Democrat from a district that's 80 or 90% black, nobody's saying nothing like that. And that's from Clarence Thomas, who's a super complicated person, who's multi-layered, who you'll disagree with as often as you may halfway agree. But even he's gotten more angry on some things, but he's not a superhero. Our system, but not our system, this white system doesn't tolerate niggas with balls. And what's worse is that black people don't tolerate black people with balls. Women don't like men that are strong, and black men are insecure around strong black men. We have not come to be able to love or appreciate ourselves and create institutions to facilitate the kind of conduct, manly conduct that people want. We're kind of stupid. We are fantasy oriented. You really think you're going to get a black man that's just going to get blown away by himself? I look at these illegals. They hold strikes without even going to the white unions and get their wages increased because they'll all band together. If you've ever worked anywhere as a black man and you've seen bad conditions, like you have, Brother Q, you know and I know no one else black and male will stand with you typically. They all know how bad it is, but most black men are bitches, and black women, they're machos. They're too busy flexing on black men in front of white people to hold their positions.
Simp culture.
When I see a situation, I know what it's like to go and ask someone, hey, let's say no. And it's almost as if their ability to reject you and not stand with you was a type of empowerment to them, for them to turn their back. Well, man, that's your problem. And you see this time and time again because, one, we have not decided to be a people and stand up as a collective. So why would we expect everybody to lose and risk everything? We've witnessed, at least I have, black people who've put their all down for black people, and they've died forgotten. Matula Shakur put his life on the line for black people, and he spent 4 decades in prison. When he came out, people hardly knew who he was. He just died a few weeks ago. We've got black political prisoners, people that gave up everything, that were idealistic. And when the hell came from white society, most niggas ran. I'll give you a childhood story. 1969. I'm with my cousins in my predominantly white neighborhood walking around. The white girl that lived next door to me, whose father was a racist, she was speaking to us and I wouldn't speak to her. And so she got mad and she says, I'm going to tell my father you lifted up my dress. I'm 4 years old. My cousins who are from the city and from the projects, project niggas said, don't stand, it's a fucking lie. They wisely ran. I stood my ground. I didn't touch the white bitch. So I didn't. Her father came, grabbed me, beat me, took me home, and then my father beat me. Nobody said he didn't touch her. And I've had experiences this my whole life with my people that we're cowards and we're traitors, 99% of us. And we leave people who are brave, whether they're Malcolm X or Martin Luther King, to be shot down and for us to benefit off of their total sacrifice, not doing a fucking thing to help them. That's how we are. So we need to stop looking for heroes and be heroic. But most of the time we're not. We're full of shit. We don't mean it. And we think someone else should die for our rights and for our progress. And to the extent that I understand that Black people are sorry like this, I have a hard time criticizing Tim Scott, even if I disagree with him, because if he stood up tomorrow, I don't think many people would stand with him. And those same people that criticize how he conducts himself as a senator, they're just like that scene from I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker. The same dude that was telling the guy to stop playing the stereotype person and the Afro gang. When that guy decided to stand up, I'm gonna have dignity and I'm not gonna play a stereotype, that person raced to be in the position to do that. That's how we are. Jealous, covetous, disloyal. No people ever advance with those characteristic traits on a systematic level. We need to purge our hearts from the bullshit that we're on, the slave-mindedness, the self-hate, the non-reciprocality that we practice. And until we get that, don't expect great people. Anybody that's in public life knows. Run for office, get involved, and find out how quickly you can't even find anybody to help you or to volunteer. Everybody demands huge salaries, and yet these same Negroes will volunteer and work for whites and others for free. We got a problem. We keep looking for saviors instead of learning how to save ourselves. That's how I'm answering your question.
Ask another question, Dr. Short. Who will Cornel West take more votes from, Dems or Republicans?
I think Cornel West is going to drop. He's not going to run. Cornel West is a socialist, communist type person. Let me just say this to you. Cornel West is a rich man too. He's not a poor Black man. And he plays it safe. Cornel West has been out here 40 years. Other than selling his own books and participating in stuff as a figure, you can't really point to stuff that he's really gone to the wire for Black people on. If you look at his love life, he did have a Black wife. The allegations are that he beat the shit and used the shit out of his Ethiopian white wife. That's an allegation. And since then, he's been married to white women. And when he was married to one white woman, it's alleged that he was messing with the students on Harvard's campus and got one of them pregnant. I think he married one of them. You can judge a lot about people off their character. If you can't be loyal to the woman that you're laying down with, how can you be loyal to people where the money is not for them, the money's against them? Really. Cornel West is going to take votes from nobody. He's going to make niggas mad. He's going to excite people. And those Black people who've given up on the Democrats are going to get behind Cornel West, and he's going to hand his people over to the Bernie Sanders wing of the Democratic Party to vote against Trump, because they'll say, you know what? We have to say no to the racist fascism of the Republican Party. As much as I find the Democrats reprehensible and the Republicans are worse, you have to understand that the Communist Party in the 1950s. And the Democratic Socialists on, but the Communist Party USA in the 1940s or 50s wanted to disband and become part of which party? The Democratic Party. The Democratic Party is the party of the communists and the socialists, whether they want to admit it or not. And there were communists and socialists that supported Roosevelt. Roosevelt had communists and socialists throughout his government. The Democrats have always been the party that the socialists and communists can always go to. The Green Party is full of communists and socialists and disaffected Democrats. But when the rubber meets the road, these people cross party lines and they vote Democratic primarily. They're not going to go. Third parties don't win in America. It never happens. The only people that have a real chance of a third party really doing something would be a national black party. But black people don't want to stand up, not as a collective. We want to be united with something else, the same way a maggot wants to be in some shit. We do not have, like the people in Canada called the Québécois. The Québécois studied nationalism of black people at black universities and in black studies departments in California and at Howard University, and took the black experience back to Canada and created a political movement that made 16% of the population, the people, power players. That's the same percentage we are. Justin Trudeau is president of Canada. He's a Québécois. He's not an Anglophone, an English-speaking majority. He's a beneficiary of black teachers teaching people in his ethnic group how to stand up when they're outnumbered. We don't apply what we know. And people like Ice Cube and others don't put any money on real development of real power for black people because they don't really believe in it. And the money is with white power. The money is with white society. Cornel West will not impact the Republicans at all. In fact, if anything, him running as an avowed socialist will get more people to vote for Trump than against him.
Well, folks, I hope we got some benefit tonight. Dr. Short, has been a pleasure as usual. Remember, you guys, to like, share, subscribe. The best way to support the channel is to support the channel. Until then, take care and have a blessed night.
And can I mention one thing before you go? If Cornel West was serious about getting people to vote for him, he would do something about that goddamn atrocious grooming that he has. When dude looks like a sea anemone that's been dried out on the beach, nobody wants that. Nobody. If he wants to make a major change in America, he could do something about his goddamn grooming. Get a fucking haircut. Trim the mustache. It looks like a mastodon pussy. Do something. Fix yourself up. Look like a serious contender for political power instead of a homeless person that shops at a consignment store.